player of all time. You know how I feel about that. On your organization, and you pair him with Anthony Davis, hold on to Kyle Kuzma, and then you stack your roster with 3-and-D guys and you don't get a championship, take a step back. Look around the NBA. There's no KD playing next year. There's no Warriors. It's wide open. There's an equal playing field. So if you're Los Angeles and you can't capitalize on signing LeBron James to your team with a championship, that's where the expectations are. It's an absolute bust, Max.
No, that's ridiculous. Look, I know a lot of people are going to feel that way. Let me educate people here. LeBron James signed a 4-year deal with the Lakers. If during that 4-year period there are no championships, that is a major bust, especially because they got AD. And you're right, they did get 3-and-D guys around them. Avery Bradley's a 3-and-D guy, let alone a guy like Danny Green, who's like the poster child for that at this point. But that doesn't mean you have to win it this year. Look, when teams are thrown together, when there's enormous roster turnover and superstars are thrown together, that doesn't generally work in the first season together. It did for the Celtics when they brought the big three together. The league was, there were no other real super teams, especially in the East at that point. And it did work. They also had a great coach in Doc Rivers, the whole thing. But the Miami Heat brought LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, that's 2 of the top 5 players in the game at the time on paper going into the season, and Chris Bosh.
How old were they? How old was LeBron then?
LeBron was in his prime.
Okay. How old is he now?
He's much, much older.
Much older.
Yes,
so you don't have time to wait.
No.
But
that means that's why they look. When you throw it together, it's different than what the Warriors did. They took a team and dropped KD into it. Unbeatable. What are you going to do? Right? That's different than throwing everything together. So who's the team right now? Which one kind of had a team and just dropped a superstar? The answer is the Clippers. Just like Toronto last year, they had a team. They won 48 games. They won 2 games from the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs with KD, and they dropped Kawhi, and Paul George onto that team. That's the team that has championship or bust expectations. LeBron and AD and them thrown together, they got to win a championship, make no mistake. But it doesn't have to be this season.
Has LeBron James figured out how to win a championship?
Sure.
Is he mature enough, and does he get it?
Sure. He's also figured out how to lose them. He's figured out both.
So he's learned from his failures, learned from his mistakes. You'd agree?
Sure.
When you look around that locker room, tell me he doesn't have enough. Tell me that he doesn't have enough.
They could potentially win it this year.
It's not potentially. No. Potential means nothing. You know L.A.
No. Look, is there going to be a lot of disappointed Lakers? And are there fans if they don't win? Sure. Some in the media, a lot of
the
general sports fans.
How about the plans?
Well, because they're trying to set expectations according to the kind of Lakers legacy, and I get that. But the sober view of this is, yes, they got to win a championship. No, it doesn't have to be this year. The Warriors aren't there anymore. I get that. So it's wide open. And the Lakers may have the best roster, but as you know, it's not just about the roster. It's about the coach. It's about the way they play together, play for each other. It's about how long they've played together. How well do they know each other? It's about avoiding injury. So the Lakers this season are among the favorites, but you can't even say they're the odds-on favorite to win it in the league.
It's not just about the roster. It's all about the roster. When you assemble that type of talent, tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Ask the Warriors. Everybody, even your mom, your dad, your uncle picked the Warriors to win. And guess what? Health happened. Injuries happen. They fall apart.
You're talking about internal.
Predict that.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying you can't predict that. So, I mean, if health is a factor, like we've seen, last year with the Lakers, with the Warriors this year. I mean, that's something
There's
that could
urgency.
Totally, exactly.
I'm not saying
you can't wait, though. You act like LeBron. So if LeBron gets injured at 34, it's much different than getting injured at 24.
I'm not saying there aren't expectations. If you're arguing what should the internal expectations of the Lakers be, then we agree.
Brother.
That's not the argument.
Hey, brother.
What is your expectation for the Lakers?
Internal, external, everywhere. If I'm LeBron James, if I'm Rob Pelinka, I'm the front office, I'm Joe Schmo off the street, and I look at that roster, I look at LeBron James' resume and says, man, you got a 26-year-old star in Anthony Davis. Hey, you got Kyle Kuzma on the rise.
Kyle Kuzma not a star? Kyle Kuzma
did you hear me say
may
on
be
the
a good
rise?
player one day.
You know what he does well? Why they were adamant about keeping Kuzma? Because he plays well off LeBron. They have guys that fits, and you talk about throwing people together. A lot of these players have former relationships, chemistry with each other, and understand.
I like the way you see,
brother.
You see the way he threw himself in there. Were you three the big three? Was that the big three?
We made a big four with Ryan Hollins. But nonetheless, Boogie Cousins is AD. Unfinished business there. Rajon Rondo was there. There are connections between players. Hey, well, we might say that the newest guy to the party is who? Danny Green? Yep. And does he fits in anywhere?
There are 2 points here. One, did LeBron learn how to win? Yes. The final season in Miami, with Wade, with Bosh, knowing how to win the whole thing, what happened against the Spurs, who did not have the same kind of roster that Miami had, but were a better team?
Oh, you said LeBron knew how to win a championship then?
Yeah, they won back-to-back championships. And then they played the Spurs. They were bookended by losses in the finals.
That was just a cool year? That was a cool year? It was okay?
Well, no. What I'm saying is, even though they had the more star-studded roster and were coming off chips, because the Spurs had a better team.
Max, let me ask you this. As you bring up them losing, would it be fair to say that was a bust of a year? That was a waste of talent?
No.
A disappointment?
No, I wouldn't say it was a bust of a year. I would say a bust of the year was against Dallas the first year.
You have Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh, and you don't win?
They should have beaten Dallas the first year. They were the superior roster and probably the superior team, but it fell apart at the end because LeBron didn't have it yet. He did not know it, right? And fine. Like the real championship stuff. And so Dirk did at the time. They had a perfectly constructed team. They played well as a team, and they won.
LeBron
but I agree with you.
I agree with you
that was a learning experience. But by the time they played the Spurs, they were ready. They were as good as they were going to be. The Spurs were just better because they were a better team. That doesn't make the whole year a bust.
That wasn't a bust?
No.
That wasn't a You
have ran into a better team.
Hall of Fame talent. You have arguably a top 5 shooting guard of all time, or arguably one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player of all time, in LeBron, and a multi-year All-Star.
Good. Let's talk about this. This brings me to my next point. Boy, I just lead the breadcrumbs. You fall right into the trap, brother. Who did the Spurs have?
Duncan, Hall of Famer, brand new Hall of Famer.
Who won the MVP of that finals?
Greatest basketball coach.
Who won the MVP of that finals?
Kawhi.
When he was a baby, he won the MVP of that finals. He's won an MVP since then of a finals, not as a baby, but as a guy who just put on one of the greatest playoff performances ever. And he was as much a LeBron stopper as you could be back then, and he wasn't as good, and LeBron was way better back then. Now, that same cat is on the Clippers with Paul George. Let me ask you about his support. Because between Kawhi and LeBron right now, Kawhi, based on the most recent evidence, let me ask you this. Was AD in the MVP conversation last year?
Nah. He
was Paul George
to get traded, bro? He was trying to get traded.
Was Paul George?
Paul George was. He was third, behind.
Who else is on the Clippers? Paul George. What else did the Clippers do? Win 48-2 from Golden State with KD. How are you going to make the Lakers the favorites over the Clippers?
Forgive me, Max. Open them big ears of yours right now. When did I say the Clippers didn't have expectations to win a championship? When did anybody say that this wasn't a championship, essentially, or bust? And you know what?
So it's championship or bust for both for you.
And I'll give you, and let's throw this back to you.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard, 28, 29 years old, right around that 30-point mark. Paul George around the same.
No. Kawhi's turning 27 or 28.
He turned it to even better.
Yeah.
These guys have 3 or 4 years.
Right.
If they don't win a championship this year, it's a bust also. The expectations are the same with the Clippers. But what LeBron James doesn't have, and please don't say you don't agree with this, is time on his side. Time on his side.
Yes, there's urgency.
Even you know the body don't feel the same at 34.
Wait till you hit. There's urgency with the Lakers. There are internal expectations for the Lakers. But if I'm asking Ryan Hollins, who does he make the favorites? If you don't say the Lakers, then you can't say it's championship or bust.
That is not the question.
Okay, are you a Lakers fan? Are you a Lakers fan?
No, I'm not a fan.
I am a Lakers fan.
Oh, you're a fan. fan, boy.
I'm a Lakers fan, and they got this roster. And I'm telling you that if they don't win this year, to me, it's not a bust. As long as they win over at least one in the next 3 years.
Let me answer that. It's an unrealistic expectation to feel that LeBron James at 34 is going to be the same guy at 35 and 36.
Right.
You expect that out of Anthony Davis, maybe Kuzma, obviously. But even as a fan, you cannot set those expectations on LeBron James to be the same and not take
By the way,
advantage of this opportunity.
Kuzma's a good young ascending player. He needs to continue ascending before he starts being brought up as one of a big three. Everyone needs to calm
LeBron might have to worry about his legacy should he not win a title with the Lakers. Also, the Lakers, they haven't even been to the playoffs since the 2012-2013 season. So, they have something to prove as well in the league. But we have a lot more to talk about. So coming up next on First Take, should the era of